Welcome to Endurance Minded, the podcast where we explore what it really takes to build a life that's sustainable, enjoyable, and helps you reach your full potential. I'm your host, Taylor Thomas. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders, and high performers to unpack the mindset, habits, and hard-earned lessons that help us navigate challenge, pursue meaningful goals, and grow through the process. Whether we're talking about business, health, relationships, or personal growth, this show is about becoming the kind of person who can endure, adapt, and keep moving forward. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a minute to tell you about a new partner that I'm genuinely excited about. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know I am extremely selective about who we work with, and I get approached by companies all the time. The answer has pretty much always been no. And that's why I'm really excited to announce that Oslo is becoming the official beverage partner of Endurance Minded. Oslo is a brand that creates their products with care and intention, and that's why it resonates so deeply with me. I've become close friends with Sam, the founder, and through our conversations about endurance, business, life, health, and everything in between, I believe that he has truly created a product that is unique and different from the flavors to the production process. They just released their new blood orange and hibiscus flavor, and I've had the chance to try it, and I have to say that it is extraordinary and by far my favorite flavor yet. We have an exclusive discount for Endurance Minded audience. It's available in the show notes. We're going to link to that there. Do yourself a favor, hit that link, and go grab yourself a case. I can't wait to offer Oslo to our entire community. I'm grateful for Sam and for the Oslo team. And without further ado, please enjoy today's conversation. Hello, and thanks for joining me. Today's guest is Erica Coleman. Erica is a speaker, consultant, TEDx speaker, Harvard-trained organizational psychologist and entrepreneur, and a self-described recovering overachiever. She built a company with more than 50 employees and millions of dollars in annual revenue while chasing the kind of success so many people aspire to. But behind that success was a very real cost. She went gray at the age of 19. Her health suffered, relationships suffered, and when her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer at the same time, her company began struggling. She did what every high achievers tend to do. She worked even harder. She doubled down, and eventually her mother passed away, her business closed, and after months of pushing beyond her limits, her body simply stopped cooperating. What followed was a journey to understand stress, achievement, and performance at a much deeper level, ultimately leading her to Harvard and the development of her Even Achieving framework. In today's episode, we explore why effort isn't always the answer, what sustainable excellence actually looks like, and how high performers can achieve more without sacrificing themselves in the process. If you're someone who has ever described yourself as an overachiever, if you struggle with burnout, if you are that classic type A personality, if you struggle to rest, this is for you. And I found a lot of myself in this conversation, and Erica and I talk about that, and so many incredible takeaways. Erica's energy, her expertise, and her willingness to share her own story are extremely impactful. So if any of this language resonates with you, or you have ever thought, am I someone who might be an overachiever? This is for you. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Erica Coleman. Erica, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Well, let's start where all good stories start. At the beginning, I know you describe yourself as a recovering overachiever. So give us a little bit of background. I know you have a really dynamic story, a lot of highs, some lows in there. So bring us up to speed. What got you to where you're at right now, so that we can have a little context to get into to the deeper parts of your story.
Yeah, I'm someone who has always loved to achieve, and I was raised very much by an athlete. My mom was also someone who loved to achieve, but she did it because she loved the game, loved the sport. I didn't get her athletic talent, unfortunately, but I got her drive. And so I used her drive in any place that made sense to me. So I did it in school, I did it in business. And to me, that was the game that I learned to play. And I loved to play it. But I also learned that, some of the rules there is that game doesn't necessarily have a start and an end time. And so I just always kept pushing and kept playing until I got to the point that I had a burnout so intense I wasn't functional. And so that's why I say recovering overachiever, because I thought kind of for a long time that life was just a simple math problem. Like give your best and then push a little bit more because, you got to go just a little bit further. And then as long as you're doing that, things work out. You get the end, you get the gold medal, everything's good. And that worked for a while. I did really well in school. I did really well in business. But my mom got diagnosed with cancer in 2022. And it was at the same time my business was having trouble for the first time. And so I was just like, okay, this is a championship game. Let's go for it. Let's lean in even harder. Like this is the game. And for 14 months, I overextended every single day in every way that I could and kept thinking, what more can I give? Where else can I find the energy? How can I make this happen? And my mom passed away and I closed my business. And then I was left not functional. And I remember being kind of mad about it. So I was like, I followed the rules. Heck, nabbit, I followed the rules. Why didn't this work out? Where was my math wrong? Prove it to me. And I had to learn, like a lot of athletes do, that effort isn't just enough. It has to be posed with actual strategy. It has to be posed with this balancing out between recovery and restoration and learning where to push and learning when to back off. Like that was something I didn't get. A lot of amateurs have that same problem. And I realized I was playing this at an amateur level. How do I level it up? So my version of doing that, which was probably the most like overachieving thing I could possibly ever do, was I applied to a master's program at Harvard while I was mid-burnout. Like I was like, can't go backwards. What's next?
Sounds restful.
Exactly. What's the next game? And so I'm grateful I did. The first semester was tough, but I studied industrial organizational psychology, which is psychology of business. But I also said, I'm going to use this as a chance to study stress, high performance, leadership, and well-being. I want to know where all these things intersect so that you can sustainably achieve and endure in the things that matter most in life without it coming at the cost of health, without it coming at the cost of family, without it coming at the cost of your sanity. And I learned some pretty cool things.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for recapping that for us. And yeah, definitely. I can certainly see a lot of myself in that story. And I get, in my own way where that comes from. To that end, again, it's something that I am able to relate to for sure. And one of the questions I've asked of myself is, where does the drive come from? Like, why is this something that kind of has always been, for me, it was, I started my first business when I was 8 years old, and I'd get up on the weekends before daylight and start, I was always like trying to do something, right? It didn't feel like I could just sit around. So I'm curious from your perspective and with your story, where do you think that came from for you? Where did that drive come from?
Yeah. So scientists, if you look at it in terms of the science of performance, the most popular theory says that there's like 4 reasons that we're going to go after goals or achievement. One of them is I want to be the best at it, which we tend to like assume most high achievers are at, but honestly, those are just the loud ones. You can get the people too. There are 2 other reasons, which are like this avoidant reason, which means I'm just doing it so that 1, I'm not the worst at it. Like as long as I'm not last place, I'm happy. And or as long as it's good enough, it's not falling apart, I'm happy. But that's not where our high performers tend to sit. They tend to sit with what drove me the most, which was I love to master things. I love the process of learning how to do something well. They call it mastery approach. So as I'm learning how to figure something out, I love that. So if you're an 8-year-old who's starting their own business, you're like, I can do this. And then you figure it out. And then you taste some of that success. You're like, yeah, I can do this. And you keep refueling it over and over and over again. And it is a wonderful thing and an important thing. as long as it's not overdone, and it can be overdone.
Yeah. I know, again, speaking from my own experiences, as well as working with lots of folks in this space, this kind of overachievement um, and like you said, you get a taste of that success, and it becomes part of our identity, our ability to outwork and overdo and be the hardest worker in the room, in quotes. I'm curious from from through your journey, where was there a point that you recognized or realized, or even in retrospect, realized that that achievement had become part of your identity? Did you catch that en route, or was it only in hindsight?
Probably was only in hindsight. So for context, both of my parents were also educators. My dad is a professor of educational philosophy. So I was very much raised of this.
You got it honest, at least.
Yeah, I know. I was like, we were very much raised to learn how to do and like try not to tie yourself to a box. Of course, I still did. Like, I remember my first A minus. Oh my gosh, like I fell apart. I was crying on the curb when my dad came to pick me up in high school, and he laughed at me. I was like, why are you laughing? My GPA is ruined. I can never get it back. Like this whole. And he's like, thank heavens it happened now, because that is just a number. It's not who you are. And so I had that message, and I'm grateful for that through my whole life. And so I was trying always to balance that. Like, you aren't just what you do. You are so much more. My dad has a phrase that he literally says, you are an ancient soul with infinite potential. Like, that's his way of defining who we were growing up, which cool, right? Don't know what it means, but cool. Thanks, Dad. Even with that mindset, when I closed my business and I was exhausted and tired and dealing with grief, I remember sitting with that question of, if I'm not CEO, who am I? If I'm not running this company, who am I? And I didn't realize that the job enmeshment had still creeped in despite all my best efforts, because I loved being a leader. I loved being a friend. I loved finding ways to help people that mattered to me. And when that was gone, I really was stuck with this. Who am I without all that stuff? And because my capability was stripped from me, that's when I really was like, if I can't do all the things I want to do, who am I? Like, what am I? I sit on the couch. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sleep. Like, it was a real big wrestle for me that took lots of therapy and lots of great mentors to kind of say, once again, you're an ancient soul with infinite potential. Doesn't actually matter what you're doing right now, but you got to trust that process.
In reading your story, it's clear that you've come so far from, that wrestle, like you were just talking about, to where you're at now. And then ultimately, now teaching people and mentoring, people to kind of break free of that. But the question that came to mind when I was thinking about that is, if we met the Erica, the you, 10 years ago, or we can pick a time frame, 10 or 15 years ago, what would she have believed about success that would make you cringe now?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. She probably would have said, if you're not moving, you're dying. That's what she would have been. It would have been like, and if I care about it, I need to be putting all of my effort into it, because this matters. So therefore it deserves me in all of my 110% glory. Yeah. I probably wouldn't have listened either if you're like, no, we can take it easy. I'd be like, no, we cannot. The opportunities are closing. Windows are shutting. We must go now. Yeah.
How do you, and we can unpack this as we, continue the conversation. But I think I feel like I'd be remiss to move on without asking the question, how do we as high performers understand what effort is supposed to look like if it's not 110? Like, what is it? It is really hard to conceptualize, and this is something I've done a lot of work around myself. So like you're like really talking my language. But yeah, like what's the other option? Like what, like how is it supposed to be if it's not this just like incredible ultimate expression of everything we have to give all the time?
There's so many things I want to say about it. So let me get my head together in terms of
I know
what
that's
would
a
be
big
helpful.
loaded question, but
I love the question. Like, this is my philosophy. So I teach the art of even achieving, which is what I call this idea of you've got to be consistently growing. You've got to be able to give your best every day, but you have to do it in such a way that it doesn't take away from your ability to do your best again tomorrow. So the big idea I have is that there's a difference between giving your all and giving your best. And you have to understand that difference. I was sitting in a class and a guest speaker was the sports psychologist from the Boston Celtics. And she came in and she's like, you can't leave it all on the court every day. You can't. You have multiple games a week. You only leave it on the court for the championship game. Otherwise, you're pacing yourself. You are looking at playing your best because you got to get to the championship level game, but you don't play every day like it's the championship game. And so that means effort is a terrible metric. It's a terrible metric. So we have to start looking at what are the different metrics that make sense. And that's where we can start saying, okay, are the metrics, how am I doing in comparison to others? Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. As long as you're comparing yourself to someone you want to aspire to be, that's a good thing. If you're comparing yourself to someone who's lower level than you will fall to that level. So like surround yourself with people that make you want to be better without pushing you too far. And then you can also say, okay, what is a metric then for how do I measure what success or performance, or even better, what does progress look like? Because that is very different than an outcome. Outcome measurements are, I should have hit this yesterday. I can't believe that we're not moving fast enough. Like, we're always frustrated with timing when we're only looking at the outcome of something. So, and that's where effort comes in, because it's like, well, if I just push faster, I'll get to the finish line. Ta-da! But if we're saying instead that my goal is to measure progress honors time. How do I do that? That becomes a different type of question. And that becomes, instead of me measuring the outcome I want, I'm now measuring how well am I listening to what progress means to me.
That's great. I really love, that's super clear. I feel like, again, I can only speak, truly from my lived experience, but a lot of times that effort is tied to control. We feel like if I can do more, then I can control more. Or I don't have to face these other things that feel out of control. So I'm gonna lean in harder to this. So help me understand that. Like, what happens when that effort no longer produces control for high achievers and folks that are wrestling with that?
Oh, I love that insight, because uncertainty is one of the most uncomfortable emotions that humans deal with. And that makes sense as to why I'm going to give effort to feel like I'm in control. What we're really doing is avoiding uncertainty. So if we want to be able to truly be able to handle progress without pushing too hard, we have to be willing to sit in uncertainty. And that is freaking hard to do, but important to do. So it's like, okay, life is full of uncertainty. It really is. How do we make that more bearable? And that's a different type of question, because we're like, well, if certainty makes it go away, then we're just seeking certainty, versus learning how to sit with it and say, okay, let me notice and name this. I feel uncomfortable right now. I don't like that I don't know where this is headed. I don't like that I don't know where the timeline really is. I don't like, you can just say that out loud and then say, will it destroy me if I don't actually have these answers right now? Nope.
Yeah. Why is that realization so hard? So why is that so difficult for high achievers? I mean, is there something about those individuals that makes the realization of they can't actually control it, and they can't actually outwork it, and they can't actually, what is there a root thing there? Why is that so difficult for these individuals to wrestle with, or to just accept? To your point, just to know that is the fact of the universe.
I love it. I don't have science on it, but I would say for sure we all want to be seen as competent and capable. We do. And high achievers, guess what? We've got a good track record of proving that we are. So that becomes our comfortable, happy place. I can prove that I'm competent and capable. Ta-da! So suddenly, if I let that go, there's your identity crisis. If somehow I'm not competent and capable, who am I? What am I? Am I a leech? That's actually been my favorite answer when I survey people. I'm like, why do you reach for the moon? A lot more people than I thought answered, I just don't want to be a leech. I don't want to be someone who's not reliable. I don't want to be someone that if you tell me to get something done, doesn't get it done. I don't want to be somebody who makes your life worse. I always want to make it better. And that's a helpful, wonderful place to be. And at the same time, can we also do okay with, and I'm not always going to be helpful. I can't always be the one carrying. Can I also accept help? Which high achievers stink at, by the way. We stink at that. We're great at giving it. We stink at taking it. So I know for me, it was very much I want to be seen as competent and capable. That's why I'm in a push. I don't want to sit. Uncertainty means I don't know. I want to be defined. I want to define things. I want to put it in a box. You've got your brain that has heuristics. You want to put things in categories where they fit. And being fluid is scary and takes a lot of practice to be okay with.
Mm-hmm. Do you think is there any part of it where you think ambitious people maybe secretly believe that they can outwork reality, or like that somehow they're like, oh, well, that I hear you, but that doesn't apply to me. Like, do you think
sure.
that's part of the equation, that they just like kind of secretly or not so secretly think that the rules don't apply to them?
Probably. I mean, especially with the advent of technology, right? I'm like, I can look anything up on YouTube and use ChatGPT. I'll figure it out. Like,
yeah, right.
I call that friend mode actually in our brains when we're like working towards our goals and what we want to do. We get different patterns of behavior that help high achievers. And if I'm in friend mode, I'm high in levels of optimism. I'm high in levels of confidence. I feel good. I've got energy. And that tends to attract people to you and resources to you. So like your brain goes, yeah, it's going to work just fine. But when we're in that mode, we tend to leave out a really key behavior, which is the call out behavior, the check in, like, you can do this. Should you do this? Do you really have to do this? Just because you want to and you can does not mean you should actually jump right in and go for it. You actually have to sit with this. All right, what am I pretending not to notice here? And that helps a lot for some of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've talked about kind of the full spectrum of overachieving and burnout. And I'm curious from, your own experience, what do you feel like broke first? Was it your body? Was it the physical aspects of that effort? Was it your mindset, or it comes to mind, there's an identity piece here. Like, so was it body, mind, or identity that you feel like really broke first?
It was my body. I think I still would have tried to do it if my body literally said, nope, you are not doing this anymore. Because I was so good at ignoring it. I did theater. So my brain is, the show must go on. And you can always find more energy. You just dig deeper. It's in your toes, pull it out and bring it forward. And I did that for so long that when my body stopped, I remember I sent my last invoice and I was sitting at this desk and I sat down and I was like, oh, okay, the to-dos are done. And I couldn't stand for several hours. And I just remember being like, no, I'm fine. Just 15 more minutes. I'll get up. It's fine. I couldn't. And it took 2 years to recover from that level of burnout. And when I say recovery, what I mean is I decided to treat it as if I tore like a muscle. I was like, I'm going to do this like any athlete would with any hurt muscle. I hurt my brain. Apparently I need to recover. So I got my own recovery plan. I had my therapist who was checking in with me, and it still took 2 years. It took 14 months before I could push a little bit beyond what felt comfortable and not have to sleep for 3 days. My body was just shutting down in every way. It was like, look, you've ignored me long enough. I'm going to get your attention. This isn't okay. And I wasn't paying attention before that. And that was why I had the identity crisis. I couldn't run away from it. I had to sit in my chair and go, I can't move. Who am I? It was this awful feeling for me. So, and it took so long to bring the capacity back that now I'm much more protective of it and much better at honoring listening to it, because before it definitely wasn't. I was always like, you're fine. You just keep going. It's just a little bit further. You'll be fine. Yeah. It was a bad habit.
Do you think in your experience are the physical cues the first thing that breaks? That's really, it strikes me. It makes total sense. And I felt that myself, but I was thinking that it would have been like the identity or the mental piece, like that. In hindsight, that feels so heavy, but you're totally right. And I recognize in real time that it's like, oh, that's actually been the first cue. Your body, like you'll continue to push. So I mean, is that common? Is that the cue that typically kind of breaks first for folks?
I would guess so. I don't know for sure. I mean, for me, I was good at ignoring them. I started going gray at 19. Like, I've been ignoring cues for a good long time. Or I noticed that every vacation I had, I was sick the first few days. And it was because my body was like, oh my gosh, you finally stopped moving. Let's recover for a minute. Or it would force me down with fevers. I used to get fevers even in high school. And my mom's like, you have another just random fever. But I was still good at ignoring them. I do think, though, that there is something to be said. I mean, exhaustion, once you're finally too tired to do stuff, yeah, you'll be like, oh, I need a break. But why are we waiting till we feel that broken to get a break? Like, that's not smart. I do think, too, though, that exhaustion can lead up to that mental fatigue, the mental burnout. And if you're not aligned with what you're doing, that's when the mental issues come in, the languishing comes in. Like, your body could be in great shape, feeling good. But if you're not truly happy and satisfied with what you're doing, you could still have the break. It would just be a different type of break. I coach a lot of people who actually feel that. They're like, I should be happy. I worked so hard to get into this position. And I'm like, yeah, how are you feeling? They're like, I just am bored sometimes. Other times it's like, I feel so much pressure from everyone around me. Nobody can help. Nobody can keep up. And that's the different kind of identity break that can happen as well. And all of those, I had a professor that she used to say, she calls those emotional green flags. And I loved that because most of the time we call them red flags. And she's like, no. When you have an emotion flare up like that, it's signaling that something you value is at risk. And if we treat that also like a signal, a green flag, we can dig into it before the body breaks. So it kind of just comes down to, what are you listening for and why are you listening?
Burnout is a fairly ubiquitous term, and I think that's most people focus on burnout, and whether that is or isn't what folks, are struggling with or not. But do you think burnout is actually, is that the root issue? Like, is there something that we should be focused on, or is there like language we should be using that's deeper or more descriptive than that to help us understand what we should do with that information?
That's a great question. I actually, when I was working with my therapist, when I was in burnout, I hadn't even said it was burnout. Like, I was just like, I'm feeling like the world has no color. I'm too tired to be sad. I don't want to do the things that used to bring me joy. I just feel meh. And she was like, oh, you're burnt out. I was like, duh, isn't everybody? Like, that was my answer to her. I was like, so what? So yes, burnout, it's really just a description of usually a workplace caused version, almost like depression, but it's not full depression. It's like disassociation from work. So to me, the language I love that matters around that actually comes from Arthur Brooks' latest works, From the Meaning of Your Life.
I love him.
I do too. And I was just like, oh, he's describing what actually matters, where we have this a fallacy that once we believe we arrive somewhere, then we'll be happy. That's not true. It actually doesn't happen that way. You'll hit dopamine for a minute and then it flees away. And so what we need is to learn how to build and work through building meaning and purpose into the stuff that we do. Now, high performers that love mastery, we're actually really good at this and we do it a lot. But if we do it so much that we push past our physical limits, then it'll start to hurt meaning and purpose as well, which is what happened to me. Because I was like, I loved what I did. I loved that I cared for my mom. And I think that's why I was mad. I thought because I was doing meaningful work, I would have been saved from the exhaustion. But that's not true. There's science that actually shows that even the most virtuous behaviors, if they're overdone, can become harmful to you. I was like, I overdid meaning and purpose to the point that I hurt my own physical capacity. Okay. Do I want to stop doing meaning and purpose? No, I need that in my life. So I have to balance the two between each other. And that's where I'm like, burnout comes from us trying to push towards some goal that we think is important. And then when we arrive there, it's our own little midlife crisis. We're like, and I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? Because happiness happens in the process. It happens in the progress of working and learning and building and growing. It doesn't happen once you reach the end.
If you're a coach, personal trainer, nutritionist, gym owner, or any kind of health and fitness entrepreneur, I want to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like you're incredible at what you do, but building the business feels harder than it should? Maybe you're struggling to consistently attract paying clients. Maybe marketing feels like you're throwing things at the wall, hoping something sticks. Or maybe you're just tired of trying to figure it out all by yourself. That's exactly why we created Growth Circle. Growth Circle is a community built specifically for health, fitness, and wellness entrepreneurs who want to build a business that's not only profitable, but actually sustainable. It's not another course with hours of videos you'll never finish. It's an ecosystem designed to help you grow. Inside Growth Circle, you'll get our masterminds, immersive quarterly retreats, our inner circle membership, where you'll receive ongoing mentorship, accountability, strategic coaching, and a community of people who genuinely understand what you're building. The goal isn't just to help you make more money. It's to help you build a business that's aligned with your values, surrounded by people who have your back, and supported by systems that allow you to create the impact you know that you're capable of. If you're ready to stop building alone and start building with purpose, head over to Impact Initiative and check out Growth Circle. We'd love to have you in our community. The arrival fallacy, I've been mildly obsessed with that as of late. I mean, I love Arthur Brooks' stuff, but then any content on that. So I'm so personally so happy you brought that up. I mean, I think, if there's any small version of that we can apply, I think there's just like, it, provides leaps and bounds of like growth and opportunity. But, I guess with that in mind, I'm thinking that I talk to, as I'm sure you do, and anyone in this space, we talk to lots of people all the time, every day, high achievers, people doing amazing things, building businesses and doing incredible physical feats and all these things. And these are very smart people, and they've accomplished a lot. And then there's lots of information now readily available, right? There is a more open dialogue around what you and I are talking about. And still, yet, these individuals continue to find themselves in the same cycle. So why do smart people keep finding themselves in the same cycle? Please help me understand.
This is like my favorite topic.
Great.
We want to believe that well-being is an understanding problem. It is not an understanding problem. It is an implementation issue, which means we don't need more education on well-being. We need to understand what are the skills that help us implement it. Now, as you said, like, I don't know how to say and be like, too much stress is bad for you. Like, we all know that, duh. But we are, as you said, way too willing to overextend on a regular basis. And why do we do that? Well, there was research that came from Harvard Business School, and they were literally struggling with that question. Why are we willing to overextend? But theirs was in the world of negotiation. So they were figuring out, why is it these really smart, successful business people will go into a deal and pay more? They will overbid for whatever deal they're going after, which means technically they win. They got the thing, but they paid so much for it that it was too much money, too much to ask for. And that's overextension, right? They're like, these guys are rational. Why is this happening? And they found out after doing some tests and experiments that if 4 factors are present when you're going after a negotiation, then you start to feel things, and these feelings will push you over the edge. Now, 3 of the 4 things we use for motivation all the time. Like, first one is a spotlight. So if someone's watching us, we're going to try harder. Like, we all know that. Give me a spectator and yeah, I'm going to try harder in some way. Also, deadlines. We use it. We all know that 11th hour moment when you're like, I get it sent in. I did it, right? We can feel that pushing me a little bit further. Okay, so I'm like, all right, if I'm aware of those, I can kind of mitigate my feelings with those. Maybe I'll breathe through them, whatever I want to do. The third one is time investment, which means the more that you care about something, the more time, energy, effort you've put into something, the less likely you are to walk away from it. So I'm like, okay, learning how to deal with sunk cost bias, that could be helpful. But the last factor is the one that got negotiators in the most trouble. And I think it's the one that gets most overachievers into trouble. And that's the presence of a single rival. So if you're bidding against 8 people, price goes too high, you're like, too rich for my blood. If you're bidding against just one other person, your focus in that moment changes from I want to get a good deal on this to I want to win. All I got to do is beat that one person to win. Okay. As overachievers, I think more often than not, we are our own rival. We start looking into our stuff and we say, okay, the only reason this isn't getting done is because I needed to push harder. So I'm the person I'm trying to beat. And I will push harder because I'm going to prove to myself, to others, to my timeline, to whatever I want that I am the winner here. But you've just opened a bidding war with yourself. And then you go, okay, if you win, wait, who's the winner? There isn't actually a winner in that scenario. So no wonder why, if you get to the end of your win, you don't feel good because you just kicked yourself onto the floor in order to get to that win. You beat yourself up. You become your own enemy. And so I've started saying, all right, anytime I start seeing myself as the enemy to whatever it is I'm trying to get done, and it usually comes across as me being like, I'm fine, I'll figure it out. Or I'll get it done. Or I just have to stay here for 20 more minutes, which, turns in like 3.5 hours, that kind of stuff. That's when I go, I'm being my own rival. I don't want to be my own rival anymore. In order to do that, I got to stack my resources in a different way. So I started saying, okay, who do I need to pull in to help me with this? What are the tools that can help me do this? Do I need more time? Do I need to actually go refuel and eat something for a minute? Would a 20-minute nap help my brain work better today? That's me now saying, I want to be my own teammate. I don't want to be my own rival. I want best. I don't want all. Rivals push to give their all. Teammates will give you your best.
I love that language. That's great. Like distinction. Yeah. That makes total sense. I feel that. I'm like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I literally was just having a conversation yesterday about, just goal setting and goal setting goals and objectives from a place of being enough, or I am enough versus being enough, right? Like why are we doing that thing? Are we doing it from a place of guilt and shame, or are we setting it from a place of, abundance and gratitude? And like you said earlier, it's all in the process. You can still get to the same place. It's just how you get there. Are you pushing that thing forward because you feel like you suck and the only way to get that done is for you to like be better? Or are you pushing that thing because you have a great team around you, or you're excited to learn, or you're like, so just that shift makes all the difference. And we can still get to the same endpoint, but so often we start from a place of, I got to do this because I'm not good enough, right? It's on me. Like and that's why it's so fresh. It was like last night I was having this conversation and it was about that, you said like when you're playing against yourself, and that's really what it is, right? You're your own kind of adversary. You mentioned stress, and I certainly I think stress as a language tool similar to burnout gets wrapped into this conversation. And so, what are our misconceptions about stress, or how should we be using that language more adeptly to really understand what we're actually talking about here?
You like bring out all my favorite topics. Yeah.
I love it. Let's do it.
Number one rule for stress is far more complicated than you think it is.
Totally.
So there's like two big misconceptions with stress. We tend to think either A, it's the price of high performance, right? In fact, when we use effort as our metric, we tend to think, okay, stress is proof that I'm working hard enough. That's not true. When you're under enough stress, your brain is working too hard. You're going to perform worse, period. But if you were like to flip to the other side and be like, okay, then the goal is to get rid of all of my stress, right? In my brain, that means I'm supposed to become a tech billionaire with a mansion on the hill, my own private chef and a spa and all those kind of things. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't actually want that either, because the only way to build resilience to stress is to experience stress. So you have to have some stress in your life. Otherwise, you'll have no immunity to it. But if too much stress is bad for you. So in science, we tend to bucket stress into like 3 different categories. There's the obnoxious little things that show up in your life. There's the super intense moments of stress, which can either make you perform better or a whole lot worse. And then there's chronic stress, which just means I have too much of book buckets 1 and 2, and now it's part of my life all the time and it's starting to hurt my body. So what we can do with those moments is that, one, actually the best way to describe it all is to know that your ability to handle stress is like a muscle. It is. So just like if you're going to work out, like you want to go to the gym, you want to build your muscles. Do you start with 475 pounds? No, you start with 10, right? And you work it out and you build your way up to that and you consistently expose your muscles to that stress. You become more resilient as you go. Cool. That's great. How do I apply that into my life? So I like to teach in my workshops exercise for daily hassles. And daily hassles are like traffic, that obnoxious stuff that pops up in your life that you're just like, can't control it. It annoys me. And then as soon as it's done, you forget completely about it. You're like, oh yeah, it's done. Sneaky, because that does still wear down your physiology. Like if you get enough of those in a day, you'll like get to the end of the day and you're all snappy and mean to the people that you love. And they're like, what's the big deal? And you're like, I don't even know. Because you've already forgotten about them. All you know is that you're tired. Okay, that's cool. My muscles get tired. Even the strongest muscle with enough reps gets tired. So what we can do is learn how to rest between our sets of working out. So I now see daily hassles as opportunities to practice my form. Just like if I were training for a marathon and I have the slower running days where I pace myself, that's a chance to work on my form. So that's when, if I'm like, okay, traffic sucked today. It was awful. I'm angry. I feel this moment. I use that emotional green flag right there. What can I do with it? I'm going to work on my form. I'll do some form of regulatory exercise. And regulatory exercise like breathing, meditation for a minute if you want, a grounding exercise, anything that kind of like brings you back to yourself, flushes out some of the cortisol, helps you realize this is just a daily hassle. It's going to be gone in just a few minutes. I don't want it to affect me that much. The reason I love doing it in that scenario is because if I try to do that exercise on the day when it's super intense, stress comes up, like a family member calls in sick, right? Like they're in the hospital. That's an intensive stress moment. If that's the first time I try a breathing exercise, it's not going to work. My body doesn't know it. It's not going to know what to do. But if I have practiced it on these lighter days, then in that moment, I can already feel my body instantaneously going, let's calm the amygdala down for a minute. Let's help the prefrontal cortex come back online. And then I'm far more likely to actually react as my best in those high stress moments. And I'll be able to use the hormones that get flooded in your body with that trigger to be able to actually help me perform better than my baseline capacity versus worse, which is now I'm just going to freak out, fight, flight, not very fun to be around kind of person.
That's such a great point to you said that and I was like, oh yeah, of course. But we don't do it is, like practice before it all blows up, right? Like we don't think about these things until we're in dire need of them. We're in dire need of regulation. We're in dire need of feeling better and we look for these tools only when we, it's like they have to work, right?
And then you're really mad that they didn't
Yeah.
magically save you.
Yeah, we like, people wonder why they're like, oh, meditation's not working. Or if you sit down and you're like, this meditation has to work because I'm about to lose my mind. That's not really a good place to meditate from.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's great. Yeah. Let this be a reminder to all of us.
Well, like, pick one. That's my favorite thing, is to be like, okay, this week, what is something that regularly shows up and annoys you, and target that this week and be like, okay, I really get frustrated when my kids have to walk from the door to the car. Like that, I don't know why, is the longest journey of all journeys. I know it's going to happen almost every day, and it's going to bother me every time. And so now, instead of being like, I've identified it right now, I go, okay, I'm going to do a breathing exercise I love, which is 4, 6, 8. I breathe in for 4, I hold for 6, I will breathe out for 8. And immediately I go, I feel better. And sometimes my kids are actually to the car by the time I'm done with that. If not, I do it twice, right? I have enough space for 2 breaths. But no matter what, I'm training my body to say, hey, you are getting a little taste of a more intense moment. This is training. Prepare for it. Use it well, just like we would any athlete in any scenario. This is your moment. Test it, try it, get good with it. Don't let it just disappear. It's an opportunity.
So we've talked about lots of pieces and parts. Now I want to know what you mentioned it earlier, your framework, Even Achieving. Walk me through what exactly is that, because I know that in that process and in your framework are answers to a lot of the things we're wrestling with. So unpack that for me.
Yeah. So in general, it is the art and science of balancing stress with success, because you're going to go after success. There should be stressors in there. You're working out hard. But how do we train it in such a way that we aren't taking away from ability to give my best again tomorrow? That means, one, I've got to learn how to stop beating myself up. I've got to learn how to be a champion for myself. And I've got to learn how to build a championship level team around me as well. And as we do that, we're going to be balancing, one, motivation. How do I drive what matters to me? How do I spark that? Because all of us have days when we're just like, I don't want to do anything. Nope, I'm done, right? How do we make sure that things that are important still get moving forward despite my energy levels, and also not at the cost of paying attention to my needs? So how do I start treating my needs as resources for that drive? How do I make sure that without adding more, giving myself an even bigger to-do list, how do I actually say, hey, there are resources here that I haven't tapped into, perhaps I've been ignoring? How do I call those up in such a way that it helps me feel like I can keep fueling this drive that matters to me? And all of that is built around, how good am I at being aware of it? How good am I of noticing when I start to tip off balance? I don't want to wait until I've been smashed onto the floor. I want to know when I've started to tip so I can adjust as we go. That's where the evening out part comes through. It's that middle way concept of, okay, can I learn to enjoy this moment that feels good without being like, well, it's going to be hard work again tomorrow? Can I celebrate? Can I also say, okay, how do I treat sleep like it's important to me, kind of a thing? Or also, how can I call myself out when I'm not giving my best? When I'm like, today was all about comfort. That's all I'm going to go for. Well, some days those matter. Some days, no, I got to call that out. So it's learning how to balance, especially those 3 behaviors. How do I cheer for myself, keep myself going? How do I provide skills and resources that matter? And then how do I call myself out when it matters most?
I have to imagine that the phrase work-life balance comes up in your conversations. So I'm curious what role, if any, does that play? And I think my like deeper question, that other thing that's coming to mind is what role, if any, does balance play or should play in this approach? Because I think it's a very contentious relationship. So I'm curious. I'll stop there. What's your walk me through that. What is that? What's that from your
Yeah, I mean,
perspective and your work?
work-life balance is a phrase right now that's totally being like debated whether or not it exists or should exist. Because let's be honest, we can't turn it off. It's not like I'm a new person at work versus a new person at home. The real question is, am I present where I need to be present?
Hmm.
That's the real question you should be asking. Am I able to be present where I need to be present? Because then it's not, I'm juggling all these tasks, or when do I turn things off, turn things on, and what belongs here and what belongs there. Like that sounds like an exhausting project management type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's much easier to say, am I present when I need to be present? Can I show up at work when I need to be at work and be present? Is my body too tired for me to be present? That's a problem. Am I too distracted and worried about my kids when I'm at work? That's a problem. I want to be present. When I get home, am I still thinking about work? So my husband's talking to me. I have no idea what he said. That's a problem. And I need to be present. So balance comes through really checking in with that moment. Am I pacing myself in such a way that I can be present where I need to be present? I literally build this question into my life right now. I
Mm-hmm.
know that when I'm going after something that matters to me, like no one else exists. Like my husband will be like, Erica, acknowledge, like I'm talking to you. And so because of that, and because he matters to me, I literally will sit down with him at least once a month and say, have I been present enough for you lately?
Mm-hmm.
And then I let him legitimately say yes or no, because he matters enough to me that I want him to still be in my life a year from now. And I understand that that requires effort on my part, and that effort comes through my presence.
Mm. I love that. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think that's long been my. I think there's just more opportunity to talk about what we're really after, right? I don't think balance captures it. Like I don't think that we really want balance. I think we want to feel like we're showing up and being present in the key areas of our life that we care about. And if,
Yep.
and so I appreciate you. I think
I
that's
love that,
really
because
strong
balance to
language.
me, like I did dance, and so I'm like, balance makes me think like you're on one leg and you're trying to hold everything up. Like
Yeah.
that's exhausting. That's
Yeah,
exhausting.
like you said, it's like, I mean, it's project management. I mean, I think the way that we are, kind of told or positioned to go about it is one where it all has to be equal pieces of the pie. And I think that's a inherently fraught, thing to try to go after. Um,
Especially because we have seasons in our lives. Like, can you
yeah.
imagine that? That's. I think as a woman, I get to hear that a lot in my life, where I'm like, if you have a baby, that baby becomes everything for at least the first 6 weeks of its life. Like nothing else exists. If I'm trying to be present somewhere else in that, the baby can be at risk, at harm.
Hmm.
And so it's really good to say to yourself, there's no way there can be equal pieces of the pie. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be, can I show up fully who I am, where I want to be when the situation calls for it? And then that puts what all us achievers love the most, control, back into our hands.
Hmm. What's the biggest shift people need to make to start to get some semblance of that presence? Because that I know when I've talked to people about that, that's something that I feel like maybe the furthest away. People are like, I get these other pieces. I get what you're saying about, X, Y, and Z, but I'm struggling to build this bridge here to understand how I can go through these areas of my life, recognize the season I'm in, and so what's the shift that people need to make to start to feel like they are making some meaningful strides in that area?
Don't do it alone. That's the
How
shift.
hallelujah.
The number one most powerful stress management tool is the relationship that you have with yourself and with those in your circle. This is one of those things. Yes, present happens in your own mind. So you can, do stuff to strengthen that. Mindfulness if you want to, grounding if you want to. Great. Take that on yourself. But don't make the whole thing your job. because there are people who can help you, and those will have to be people you trust. And when you offer the opportunity for them to help you in something that really matters to you, you will build bonds with them that you cannot get any other way. And that is why the question I ask, have I been present enough for you, is not one I ask myself. I ask my husband, and I tell him to tell me if I've been. I'm not the metric on that. He helps me create the metric on that. And if there's times where he's like, no, it's been hard, I ask him for specific examples, because we cannot see ourselves fully by ourselves. We can't. So we pull in other people, and you build out that team. When I say a championship level team, that's how you do it. Stop trying to do it by yourself. You've got to pull in other people to help.
Yeah. Is it possible to be incredibly wildly ambitious without being consumed by it?
I think so. But you're going to have to like constantly handle the paradox of wanting to push further than you should, and also honoring the fact that time matters. So, I mean, I just did this last weekend in my garden. I have a water feature that I love. I just wrote about it, and it was leaking. And so my brain said, well, if I have to fix it anyway, let's make it bigger. And because I built the first one, I was like, I have facts. I can do it. I can do it again. And my first ambitious thoughts were, let's just do it in an afternoon. That's all it's going to take. Now, a project like that, especially because I'm not a professional and I didn't want to throw a ton of money at it, and the way that you test for leaks takes multiple days. Like, you have to wait for it to dry out. You have to make a patch. You have to flood it. You have to notice it's still not working. Then you have to drain it and let it dry out and cure. Like, it days and days and days, right? It wasn't actually possible in an afternoon. It took 2 months to get it done. Now, here's the thing. I still have this wonderfully, wildly ambitious thing in my backyard, and I'm proud of it, and I love it. But if I had said that the timeline was what made that qualify as ambitious, then there's a problem, right? There's a problem. A timeline that short is going to require a different type of resource than I was willing to give. When I said, I want to do this myself, I said, okay, the resource I need to give is compassion towards time. So I gave it. And I'm grateful, because now I'm like, yeah, there's my wildest ambition, but I don't need to push it along a specific timeline. Ambition still happens. We just have to separate it from time.
That feels like a much, I mean, I think it's just like that's a much healthier way to go about a goal, for lack of a more like nuanced way to say it. When you're describing them, like, oh, what a like nice way to pursue a thing you want to get done. And so then my mind goes to like, how, my question that pops in my mind from that is, what does excellence look like when stress isn't the driver? Like, I think like like there's a feeling that you're like, oh, I must be doing it right because it feels really hard and I'm stressed. So what is, if that's not our metric for what that's supposed to feel like, what does excellence actually look like if we remove stress from the equation?
I love that so much. For me, it is, am I so proud of it? I have a hard time looking away. That's how I know for me. Like, if I am so proud of it that I keep being like, yeah, I did good on that. I like it. Even enough that if I'm willing to talk about it. Because for me, as someone who likes to just do things well, I very rarely like show it to other people, because that's not why I did it. I didn't do it to show off. I did it because I wanted to do it well and I wanted to figure it out. So if I did it so well that I do want to talk to people about it, that's my satisfaction. I love it when it is really, truly that when you are at that arrival moment and you're like, yeah, I'm proud of that, and I'm willing to cheer it on. That's when I know I was driven by something much healthier than just stress. Because don't get me wrong, there was plenty of stress in my projects. But I instead said, instead of letting this drive me into trying to push this harder, which also would have meant like, if I had given into that feeling, I would have probably just ripped out all the rocks and given up. I don't even know how many times. Instead, I was like, I'm stressed out. And I walked away. I'm coming back to this tomorrow when I have a clear head and I'm ready to do it again. That approach in its own right was great, because now I look at it and I go, yep, not only does it look phenomenal, and it's fantastic and I want to talk about it. I'm proud of it. And it didn't cost me time with my family. It didn't cost me work time. It didn't cost me my back because, if you're picking up rocks, it's really easy to be like, no, you can lift it. There's some rocks you shouldn't pick up. Being able to say that is now my new metric of excellence. Can I be proud of it without it having cost me everything else that matters to me? Because then you sit with it for a long time and it feels freaking good. It's actual satisfaction that endures. Instead of, the worst one, by the way, is when you're like, oh, it's done. I never want to see it again. How many times I've heard that? Like the class that you push super hard for, or a race that you run for, or after I gave my TEDx talk, I remember people came off the stage afterwards. They're like, oh, thank heavens that's over. I was like, this is something I've spent over years trying to prepare for. I'm so thrilled that I'm on the other side going, I did it. It's amazing. That is a completely different feeling than, oh, it's over. I never want to look at it again.
Yeah, I hear that. I've that's been kind of a metric or a marker for me in lots of areas, and something I've shared with other folks. I'm like, I think the worst thing that could happen is that we push so hard and are so blinded by our preferred outcome that on the other side of it, we just hang the thing up, right? Yeah. You're like, I want to go run a marathon, and you kill yourself getting there, and then you never run again, or you're hurt. Yep. Like I want to build a business, and then on the other side of whatever that, you're like, like the win is to enjoy it so much and to learn so much about yourself and have it impact all other areas of your life, so that you can't wait to stay in it. You become a lifelong athlete. You become someone who builds something else and builds a team or whatever. So yeah, that really resonates. There's so often this kind of just singular, like, I just got to get there. And then
everything will work out. Everything will be fine.
Or I gotta get through it. Yeah. It's that, it's very much that arrival fallacy you were talking about, mixed with just kind of like a singular focus on the outcome versus the process orientation.
And I love, if you think about it, that pushes your presence away, right? If I just have to get there, what am I literally doing? I'm like plugging my ears. I'm closing my eyes. I'm not checking in with my body. I'm not checking in with people that matter. I have now said that this outcome is the most important thing for everything else. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. You've joined a bidding war, right? That is that moment of, if I can't be present while I'm going after this, I am now fighting myself. That's the cue for you. If I'm thinking, if I just get to the end of this, there's no way you're present in that moment. There's no way. So how do you be able to say, I can get to the end of this without it costing everything else that matters to me?
What would you tell someone who feels like, you mentioned it earlier, that these high achievers, the folks that you work with, are they feel bored, they feel empty, they feel, whatever. What would you tell someone who feels trapped on that like hamster wheel of achievement? What's the, what would you share with them?
That's a tough one because there's so much I want to share, right? Not overload them. As I've worked with my coaching clients who have felt this quite a bit, often I try to help them first and foremost learn how to do something simply for pleasure's sake, not productivity's sake. So like, for instance, one of my clients, she's like literally is dreaming about work, like wakes up, it's so vivid, can't quite tell what happened for real and what happened in her dream. Like she's doing paperwork in her dreams. And we realized that she was at the point that she couldn't relax in any way or enjoy things. And so for her, for instance, I was like, I want you to go find some fluffy, light reading book that you probably would make fun of because it has no purpose. It would never be assigned in an English class. It's not literary greatness. It's just fun. And can you connect with it in some way? And if you don't like it, you don't finish it. That to her was like revolutionary. She's like, what? But finding something that you do simply for enjoyment, not for productivity's sake. So I had another client who said I was supposed to go to the beach. My therapist said, sit on the beach and do nothing for an hour. And she's like, I think I'd rather die. I was like, I get it. So instead, go enjoy the beach for an hour. What does that look like instead? Instead of being like, I'm going to walk to whatever this landmark is in this much time, like leave the goals aside for a minute and do something simply for pure enjoyment, something that you're not going to post, something that you're not going to share. You're just going to do it because you enjoyed doing it. And can you find that space? That is the first way to start saying, this matters to me. And it can matter without having it to be graded. It's not a performance in any way. It's simply a practice of enjoying being here, being present right here, right now. You can do it in 15 minutes or less.
Mm-hmm. That's a great one. Yeah, I think that'll push a lot of people. I mean, I think it probably doesn't sound easy, but to many
simple,
people, but
not easy.
simple, not easy. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. So, well, this has been incredible, Erica. I'm grateful for your time. Thanks so much. This was a ton of fun.
Thank you. I was thrilled to be here. You great questions. That was fun.
Thank you.